Hello everyone, my name is Cap and welcome back to the channel, and this is the 7 Days to Die Beginner's Guide for Alpha 19. I've done quite a few videos like this in the past, but as the Fun Pimps release newer versions of the game, they make some large changes to the game that completely change everything about it sometimes, and so previous tutorials may not be adequate, so do keep that in mind that if you're watching this down the road in a later version, and some of the things have changed. So this is going to be just kind of a beginner's guide to show people who are new to the game what to expect, what to look for, where to go to find certain things, just kind of get you started moving in the right direction and how the basic mechanics work. We'll start off by looking at what's on the screen. At the top you have the compass that moves around as you look around, pretty standard in most games. Below that you have the day and the time. You'll want to keep an eye on those because as the days move closer to day 7, that is when you get into your first Horde night. Every 7 days you have a Blood Moon Horde, but we'll get into that at a later time. The time is what you want to keep an eye on a day-to-day basis, because at 10 o'clock at night, or 2200, until 4 o'clock in the morning the next day, you are in what's considered night mode. And so all of the zombies are basically feral. Everything runs, it's a lot more harder to survive, of course it's a lot harder to see. And so during that time period, unless you're just really well stocked, typically new to the game, you'll want to find a good place to hide and keep low for the night. On the bottom left hand corner, you'll see you have two bars down there, a blue one and a red one. The blue one is your stamina, that as you move and run around and jump, you'll see it goes down and then it naturally climbs back up again. That's your stamina bar. Once it runs out, like most games, you're going to start huffing and puffing, and then you can't attack as fast, you can't run as fast, you can't jump climb as fast until it recuperates a little bit. Below that is your life bar, of course. And once it gets down to a certain point, then you can start seeing some adverse effects as well. Now, right above that, you're going to see a little icon right at the moment is showing a bit of a jacket. Now, when you first start off the game, it's going to give you kind of an environmental bubble, basically, meaning that within a radius around where you spawn in, nothing's going to spawn in around you that's going to hurt you or come after you. So you have a little bit of time to gather some supplies before you get attacked the first time, kind of give you a way to ease into the game. Now, the jacket icon down there is elemental protection, meaning you are protected from being too hot and too cold for the first 6 levels. And that is something you have to keep in mind too, is you do have to keep up with temperature in the game. Now, if you want to see what the icons do, just hit the tab button to open up your inventory screen like this, and then you just click on the icon and it'll take you to your status effects area of the screen, and you can see what all of them are. If it's a negative effect, it will show you what you need to do to be able to clear it up, but this is where you're going to be able to see what all of those little icons and indicators mean over on the left hand side. At the bottom of the screen is your tool belt. You've got 10 slots available to be able to store things. You can use the scroll wheel to roll through them here, or you can use the numbers on your keyboard to quickly jump back and forth. The bar across the top of your tool belt down there is your experience bar. As you do things like kill zombies, craft, break things down, build things, sell things, basically doing most anything in the game, you'll see that continuously go up. And of course, once it reaches the right hand side, you'll level up, then you'll get some additional skill points. The green bar at the bottom left hand side is your food bar, and the blue bar is your water. So you will have to try and find food and water to survive. As those start going down, you start having stamina drains, you just don't move as quickly, basically like you would think in a normal environment. Now, on the bottom right hand side, if you happen to be looting, crafting, breaking things down, anything you do, you'll see the little information bar down on the right hand side. That's where the action is. And so anytime you craft anything, if you break it down, if you sell anything, you find any money, if you kill any zombies, that's where it's going to pop up what you got, how much experience you got. And so you can see just by searching some things, you gain a little bit of XP. So the bottom right hand corner is where you're going to see what happens when you do different things in the game. Top right hand corner up there, you can see currently it tells me to craft a bedroll. That is where it's going to always show your active quest. When you first start the game, it's going to have you go through the beginner's guide to questing. And what it wants you to do is to go through a series of simple things like creating a bedroll, creating a wooden club, a stone axe, how to craft your first frames, how to upgrade a frame, is to teach you the basic mechanics of the game. So if you follow those through, then you will have a better idea of how to do things in the game. You can get a really good information about what your current quest is up here, this exclamation point in your menu. You click on this, and all you have to do is click on it, and it'll tell you what you have to do for each one of these. So for instance, for this one, gather plant fibers. One of the easiest things in the world to find is just by punching plants, punching grass all over the ground here. Real easy, nothing hard about that at all. And you can see how many you got in the bottom right hand corner, as well as how much experience you got for each one of those. Hit the tab button to open up your crafting menu. Now, across the top here, this is where you have the different categories of things that you can craft. You can go to your basics, building, resources, ammo and weapons, tools and traps, food, science, clothing, and decor, furniture, that sort of thing. And anything that it's trying to tell you how to do in the very beginning, you'll have the little exclamation point. So you just click it. Anything that's over here you can click and it'll tell you what you need in order to be able to make these. The left hand number over here is how many you have. The right hand number is how many you need. And then you can see the time right up here underneath the picture as to how long it's going to take. When you start crafting, it's going to go down into your crafting queue. You can have 4 different things going on at the same time. So if you're crafting, if you're making some sort of recipe, or if you're breaking things down, it goes down in here. And as you are crafting things, if something's down here and you're like, oh, I didn't mean to craft that yet, you saw when I hovered over it, it had the big red X. You just click it and it cancels it. So you can easily move things back and forth between your tool belt and your inventory by holding down shift and clicking it, if you don't want to click and drag. So, to be able to complete the first quest here, we have the bedroll here. If you left click when you're trying to place something, it rotates it around. If you right click the mouse, it places it. And we completed the very first quest. So now you can see the second quest is it wants us to craft a stone axe. We're going to be able to need some more plant fibers, but you can see how the number's green up there, and that we already have those plant fibers. But now we need to be able to gather stone and wood. Those are 2 things that you're going to need a lot of in this game. Now, stones you can find just laying around on the ground like this. These little bitty stones, they're kind of just all over the place, depending on which biome you're in. You get some that size and you get some this size. These little bitty ones count the same as the big ones. Also, as you're moving through the world, sometimes you can find large boulders on the side of the road that you can also get stone from. If you decide to try and just like punch it to pieces, it takes a little while to get one rock there. That's when you'll want to be able to use a tool for it. Now, for gathering wood, there's a couple different ways you can find wood here. Sometimes you have these tiny little trees like this that are dead that you can just walk up and punch a couple times. And as you start punching through there, you'll see over on the right-hand side, I got an experience point and I get a couple pieces of wood for it. In the very beginning, this may be what you have to do to get the pieces that you need for it. You can also find these tiny little dead shrub-looking things here. These are just a 1 punch. You hit that, you get your 1 experience, and you get your 1 wood. So these little bitty broken down bushes like that, like this one right here, they're a lot easier to get your beginning wood levels from because it only takes 1 hit and you don't have to beat on an entire tree. But to be able to complete the first one here, it wants us to do a stone axe. You can see it's got our exclamation point here. Click it, it tells us that we're going to be able to need 2 stones, 2 fibers, and 2 wood. And it's going to take 4 seconds. So we craft this. You can see it down here. There's the red X if I wanted to cancel. So now that we have our tool here, I'm going to put this down in my tool belt. The game starts you off with 1 thing of boiled water, which you can drink without any kind of adverse effects. A can of chili, which is the same thing. You get a first aid bandage, which will help out with stopping bleeding and help if you get some abrasions, and it gives you some health. So that is one of those that you may need to use if you decide to do something crazy and get hit. Your torch can provide a light source. It also works as a weapon that you can left click to melee attack with them. And it provides some warmth. So if you happen to be in a snow biome where you're cold, just by holding the torch, it will provide you some warmth. The land claim block that the game gives you at the very beginning is not something you need right away, so you can definitely either just trash it or just store it. The land claim block is what you will use to be able to stop other zombies from spawning in. So when you get a base setup per se, then you'll want to make sure that you have the land claim block down. And then if you see these little notes, and this is just the beginning, I'll tell you what's going on with this. Anytime you find any notes in the wild like this later on, they're going to be quests or fetch items or treasure hunts and things like that. So at the very beginning, there's nothing really going on with it. You can just kind of drop it. It's just kind of a welcome to the game thing. All right, so now the game wants us to gather some more plant fiber. So once again, all you have to do is just roam around and punch some grass. You'll see these kinds of things here. If you're looking at a plant and it's named, like chrysanthemums over here, we got cotton over here, there's different kinds of plants that you can find that are actually named. If you punch those, you're going to get whatever plant it is that you're looking at. So if you punch chrysanthemum, it's going to give you chrysanthemum, not the plant fiber. So if you're walking around trying to get plant fibers to complete a quest, just keep an eye on what you're needing to punch here and not try and gather up a whole bunch of the wrong flowers. So the next thing it's going to have us go through here is to craft pants and a shirt. And that is just the beginning parts just to give you some level clothes. So you can craft both of those. We'll get the shirt going. We'll get the pants going. Those don't take you very much time at all here. If you want to craft some more clothes, you can do a search for whatever it is you're trying to make here. So, for instance, we just made fiber pants and a fiber shirt. If I want to make the rest of my fiber clothes, like gloves, a hat, shoes, a hood, anything like that, here is the list of all the rest of them. You can just type in fiber and it'll sort by it. Now, real quick, when you're looking up anything in the game on how to craft here, if you see it's highlighted in white like this, that means you currently have the ability to make it. You have the necessary stuff to make it. If you see some things that are grayed out, that means you can make it, you just don't have what you need to for it. But if you start getting into an area in which you want to try and craft something, say I want to be able to craft a gun. So you look down here and you see these are grayed out, but they also have a padlock next to them. When you see the padlock there, it means that you're going to have to try and find a schematic, which is basically like a blueprint to teach you how to make that. You can't craft it until you either buy the schematic from a trader or you find the schematic during your looting days. But we'll get more to that later on as well. So the next thing it wants you to do is to put these actually on. So if you're wearing any kind of clothing, you can just click on it and you can click on W or click the item right up here to wear it, and that will automatically equip it. And now you have that completed. In the menu here that you have going on, you can click on the hammer, and this takes you back to your crafting grid where you see everything here. The little character icon is where you can see your character, and this is where the different kinds of clothing goes. And you'll have clothing, and then you have armor slots. So you have a shirt slot, pants, shoes, gloves, a hat, a face mask if you want to wear one. Then you can also get a jacket for elemental protection. Then you got chest armor, leg armor, and you can get different kinds of armored gear to put in these different slots. But this is where all that's going to be. If you click the little bars here, this will give you a list of your stats, your health, stamina, food, water, what the temperature feels like, and then all of your other stats that you may need later on. And then if you have any other stats going on here for different kinds of things, this is where you'd find that. But this is where you find those. You're going to spend a lot of your time basically right here in the crafting menu, especially in the very beginning. So you can see now the game wants me to craft a wooden club. That's going to be your first weapon you have. So you'll want to use your stone axe because it gathers wood a lot faster. You can just go up to any of the trees and beat on those a little bit. You can just hold down the left mouse button and you'll see that I'm gathering wood as it's going down. Once you successfully chop down a tree, you'll see that it gives you kind of a bulk sum of wood at the bottom. So you get a little bit every time you hit it, and then once the whole thing crashes, then you get a little bit bigger of a bonus. And of course, the bigger the tree, the more hits it's going to take down, and the more wood you get. So let's go into the next thing it wants us to craft here, the wooden club. This is your first actual melee item. It doesn't take very long, a whole 1 second to craft. Move this down here. I'm going to put everything back up here so we can keep those out of our inventory. So the next thing it wants us to craft is bow and arrows. So you have to gather wood, which we have, plant fibers again by punching grass, stones, which you can find laying on the ground, and feathers. Now, in order to be able to find feathers, sometimes you can roam around and you'll see a bird's nest laying on the ground, like this right over here. And to get this, all you have to do is just search it by pressing E, and you'll see I got feathers and an egg. Egg you'll use later on. It's food that you can eat right now, but it doesn't do too much for you. But in a pinch, it'll help out. Eggs used more in recipes later on. But we did get some feathers, so we can make what we need to for here. Craft a primitive bow and some stone arrows. So we'll craft our one bow, and we can craft one arrow. If you have multiple things like for arrows or frames, you'll find yourself crafting a lot at a time. You can use the arrows back and forth here to increase and decrease the number you want to create, or you can use this far right hand arrow here and max out the total number that you can craft based on what you currently have. But for this quest, we're going to craft just the one to complete that quest. And now we have a bow and arrow. So we'll put that in our tool belt down there. Now when you're using any kind of weapon, whether it's a bow or a gun, you'll see in the bottom right hand corner it's got basically your ammo count. And for the bow, it is arrows. So you can see that I have one arrow, but it's not equipped. As I'm holding my bow, there's nothing here. If you left click the mouse one time, it'll go ahead and knock an arrow, or you can hit the R button to reload. And that is how you go through and put ammo into whatever weapon you're currently using. Okay, so now we need to be able to gather some more wood because it wants us to create some wood frames. We've got some wood on us, so we don't really have to worry about that. But these wood frame blocks are the base of building here. There's just a hollow frame, but it's what you start off with when doing a lot of building. And so having some frame on you is a really good idea because you can also use those to climb things. But it wants us to craft just one, but you can see here that we can craft quite a few. And if we click back and forth through this, we can cycle through the count, or we can click the right-hand arrow and it'll max out how many we can make with what we have. We can make 8, but we don't need to, so we'll just make 3. Doesn't take very long to make those. You get experience for each one that's actually crafting. Now we get into the different kinds of blocks we have. So you see I have the frame in my hand here, and as you're looking at the ground, you'll get kind of a white box. Oh, we have our first zombie visitor here. This is a crawler. The ones crawling around the grounds are a little bit harder to hit because you have to aim down on them. And if they're in the grass and the sticks like this, it's a little harder to hit them because if you try to attack them there, sometimes you'll accidentally hit the plant. So if you got one crawling around down here, you may want to have it crawl out on the road with you. And then, of course, you can left click to a regular melee or you can right click to do a power attack. You can do that with any of your melee weapons. Left click to standard attack, right click to power attack. So, we're back to the frame here. Anytime you have a buildable item that you're trying to place down, similar to the bedroll, if you left click it, you can rotate it around, which for a frame doesn't really matter. You can get into some of the advanced shapes of things you do with the frame. If you look in your tool belt, you have the little geometric shapes in the corner down there, right above the actual frame itself. That lets you know that you can change shapes with the block here. So if you hold down the R button, you're going to see different kinds of options you have here for being able to change how it rotates, if you want to try and rotate it so it's facing a certain direction, or if you want to be able to change the shape of it. So while I'm still holding down R to see this menu here, I just click that there, and when I let go, this will bring up all the possible shapes that you can make with this particular square here. So if I wanted to make a ramp, then all I'd have to do is click it, and when I back out, now I'm going to be placing ramps. That's a little bit more advanced, but I just wanted to show you in case you're curious as what the icon is. So we'll go back to just the wood frame and right click to place it. Now your stone axe that you made earlier, this is the earliest multi-tool that you're going to have here. It's your breakdown tool and your upgrade tool. By left clicking things, you will beat down on it. By right clicking them, you will upgrade it. So by right clicking the block 3 times, you can see it upgraded it to the next level block that we have here. So the next thing it wants us to do now is to gather more stones. So if you're ever looking around for rocks and you're just finding yourself finding it difficult to be able to find a lot of small stones laying around, which they are a little bit hard to see in the tall grass, you can find one of these big rock structures like this and you can beat on it and you can get rock from these just as easily. And you can actually end up getting a whole lot more of them. But of course it takes a little bit of time to beat the entire thing down, but you can get a ton of rock and a ton of experience. That is a great way to be able to level up early on. So the next thing it wants us to make is a campfire. Campfire is what you're going to use a lot for preparing meals and for making water. So we have our campfire here, right click to place it on the ground, and we have completed the basic level steps. And it says, good job, you have completed it. We finished basic survival. If you click on continue, now you're going to find out that you have a trader that is marked on the map. It's going to give you a little exclamation point. It's going to tell you in the top right hand corner that to get to it is your next quest, and if you hit the M button, it'll open up the map and you can actually scroll around by left clicking and dragging around and see how far it is. Now that we've completed the beginning starting quest, we can see that we have some skill points to spend. If you open up your inventory, you'll see this graduation cap icon here. This is your skill tree. Up here, this is where you're going to develop your character. This is a far more in-depth video than is what's beginners, but I just wanted to show you where this is at. You'll see up at the top here you have 4 skill points available. This is always where it shows how many you have, and this will show you all the different trees that you have. You got perception, strength, fortitude, agility, intellect, and then the perk books. All of these are books that you can find while looting or buying from the traders, and will unlock abilities, as you can see over here. But under each one of these trees is individual skill points and attributes. And so all you have to do is click on any of them and it will pop up over on the right hand side the specifics to that one. So for instance, we have a skill point here. If I was going to want to do more melee damage, I would want to put one into Pummel Pete. So I click on it. Over on the right hand side you can see those little shopping cart, and if you highlight it, it tells you it's going to take 1 point. And so if I click that, now my Pummel Pete skill is at level 1, and so I do more damage with wooden clubs and I can craft a better club. Now let's talk about the basics of item levels and durability. Each item and tool and weapon in the game has a level that you can get to. Levels 1 through 6, 6 being the absolute best. As you make your way through the game and start leveling up your skill points and finding books to be able to make better items, the best you can make is from 1 to level 5. A level 6 cannot be crafted. You have to either buy it, get gifted it for doing a quest with a trader, or get lucky and find it. But 1 through 5 is where you're going to be making those. 5 is the best that you can make. And you can see as you click through here, each one of them has better stats than the previous one. And the corresponding number is the level it's at and the color to go along with it. At the bottom is also a durability bar. And as you can see, as you use it, it goes down. Once it reaches 0, you can't use it anymore. It just say, this item is broken and needs to be repaired. To be able to repair different items requires different things. Like for instance, the wooden club only requires wood. And you can see right at the moment it's grayed out because I don't have any wood on me. If you're trying to figure out what it takes to repair something, you can just click it, and in the bottom right hand corner it'll pop up the icon of the item that you need. It's telling us we need a little bit of wood to be able to repair that one. So come over, hit a tree a couple times, and now when we click on this, the repair option is there. You can see it's repairing, and now it is max durability again. So that is the different kinds of weapons and items that you'll see. Each different kind of item has the same thing. Bows, guns, rocket launchers. It doesn't matter what it is. If it's a tool or a weapon, it's going to have levels and durabilities. Your things like your wooden frames, your water, your food, those different kinds of items don't have a durability. They're not going to go bad as they're sitting in your inventory. The next most important thing that you're going to need to do a lot of in this game is looting. Now, very early on, you're not going to try and hit up any of the very large buildings yet. Each kind of location that you're looking at here, people refer to as a POI, a place of interest or point of interest. And so each kind of building is considered a POI, in case you hear people mentioning that. You'll want to start off with some of the smaller ones, especially houses like this, because you have a better chance of finding food and water and some things that you may need. You can search things such as the mailbox outside. You just press E to search them. And this is where you'll have to determine what you need at the moment. Early on in the game, I'm not going to need paper because I'm not doing anything that I need to be able to craft that. You can click it and it'll tell you what it's used for and if you want to take it or not. I'm just going to leave it there because I don't need it. But inside small houses like this, you will find some zombies sleeping. And so if you happen to be wandering around in one of these and you're going to go looting it, you may just be cautious as you go in that you may find some zombies sleeping, and you may not at all. But as you're working your way through these maps, you want to be able to check out all the kitchens. And so houses is a good place to be able to find kitchens and bathrooms so that you can try to find things like cooking pots, grills, cabinets that you can search. Like this, the cupboards up here, you can search this. Hey, we found some more food. We found a can of sham. We definitely want to keep that. So kitchens very early on is a good place to be able to search for some things. Now, some kinds of food do have some adverse reactions, so you have to keep that up here. An old sandwich, it does give you a little bit of food in case yours is really, really low, but you can see here you take a hit on your health, and it doesn't do anything with your stamina. Also, you have a 12% chance of dysentery, which is going to be another one of these adverse effects over here on the side. You get dysentery, obviously it's going to take some time to get through there, it's going to lower your stamina, it's going to lower your water levels, it's just not going to be good for you. So you have to kind of decide if you want to risk it by eating that or not. But this is the kind of things that you're going to be doing a lot of in the game is looting. And I would really suggest these small places early on so you can get a chance to get some better food. And sometimes with sinks, if you get lucky, you can find more useful things than just food. Like a cooking pot. This is something you definitely want to find very early on. So we just found a cooking pot, and that's going to be the next important thing to keep in mind as a new survivor. You need cooking pots early on in the game, so definitely searching kitchens and sinks is good to have them. Now, you open up your campfire that you made a little while ago, and you'll see that you have these icons up at the top here. You can just click and drag them into the spot, and it will stay up there. You can have a cooking pot, a cooking grill, or a beaker inside your actual campfire, and that will unlock different recipes for you. Sometimes you have to have these in order to be able to make them. Over on the left-hand side, you can see here's all the different kinds of food you can cook, which you can see there's tons of recipes, most of which are locked early on. You can click on the drink, and you can see all the different drink recipes you can make here, or you can see different kinds of chemistry level things like glue that you're going to need early on. But for instance, if you're wanting to try and make bacon and eggs, it's locked right now, so we can't make it anyway. We have to be able to put either the skill point or find the recipe for it. But at the very top, you can see where it says cooking pot required. So that's when you would need to have a cooking pot in place. And now you have a green check mark. So if you had it unlocked, now you could actually make it. And as you go through some more advanced recipes, as you get down here, it's going to tell you that you have a cooking grill in order to be able to make that. And so even if I had it unlocked, I don't have a grill, so I can't make it. And that also brings up the concept of how to unlock some things. If you click on something with a lock here, you'll see right here, you can either get to it via the Master Chef perk, or you can try and find the steak and potatoes meal recipe. And that's basically pretty much it. It's one of those two things. So if you're trying to figure out where the Master Chef perk is, you'll want to go under the education cap again. You want to look for the Master Chef icon, and this will tell you what you have to be able to make that. So for level 1 here, I can make bacon and eggs. So I want to spin that in there. We use one of our skill points to unlock that. So now when I go into it, bacon and eggs is actually opened up, as well as some other recipes. And we have the cooking pot. So if we had some raw meat and some eggs, we could totally make them here. So food and water is going to be the best thing you're going to need to look for early game to make sure you can survive, because your food and water will go down quickly the more you're actually doing, especially killing zombies. That'll make your food and water go down really fast. So that's basically about it for looting. You're going to go into lots of buildings and just basically tear everything apart and see what kinds of stuff in there you may want to use. Well, there you have it. That is the end of the beginner's guide here. We tried to touch on as many different things as possible, but you can see there's a lot to these games. So some of it you're going to have to kind of just figure out. We can do some more videos later on to get a little bit more advanced into things like the skill tree, advanced level crafting, things like forges and workbenches, high level looting, killing zombies, etc. But just to kind of get you started, hopefully this will help you out. If you have any questions, leave it in the comments down below. If you found the video useful, do me a favor and hit that thumbs up button down below. And if you're new to the channel and you like what you see, think about subscribing by clicking subscribe. It costs you nothing. It'll add you to my channel, and you get notified when new videos go live. I hope you enjoyed the video. You have a wonderful day, and I'll talk to you later.